And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. School boards are responsible for the education of a community's young people, ensuring all students have access to a high-quality, rigorous education that prepares them for college, career, and life. Boards usually consist of 5 to 9 elected or appointed representatives from the community. On today's Open Connection, we open our archives to bring you this story from 1989.
The dispute between Terrace teachers and the local school board bears a striking resemblance to the one resolved only weeks ago in the Kitimat School District. Like their Kitimat counterparts, Terrace teachers walked out when negotiations between the two sides failed to produce any real results. The Terrace District Teachers Association had said if significant progress wasn't made by a January 3rd deadline, they would hit the bricks, and that's exactly what they did. Teachers Association President Helmut Giesbrecht says the members are fed up with the slow pace of negotiations. They feel the school board is stalling unnecessarily, and Giesbrecht says teachers decided they weren't going to put up with that.
Well, it comes down to I guess, two specific issues, and one of them is that the board's not prepared to give us anything in terms of the language on the management rights clause that they want, or those things that define management rights that allows for fair and reasonable treatment for our members. They want fast-track, streamlined kind of management rights provisions, and there's no protection for our members against the abuse. And we're not prepared to go for that. They insist on not even rolling over some of the contract provisions that we had in past contract agreements, and that's one of them. The other one is that they're also not prepared to define how much work a teacher is going to be expected to do for the amount of pay they're prepared to pay them. And when we talk about hours of work and class sizes and the work year and such things as mainstreaming, those kinds of things that put a workload on teachers, secondary prep time, for example, they give us a very firm opposition to that, and in many cases a flat no. There's about 34 items that they give us a flat no on. They don't even present counter proposals across the table. So in view of the kind of position that they're taking, it was a matter of time, only a matter of time, before strike action would result anyway.
Although the teachers had made it clear they were prepared to strike at the beginning of the month, school trustees were surprised when the teachers walked out. The school board says negotiations were not at an impasse.
Well, we would think that if they'd called a strike, they would have called a strike because the bargaining process had reached an impasse, and that wasn't the case. As a matter of fact, the strike was announced in the media when we were still negotiating at the table. So we find that a little bit incredulous that there should be a strike called when negotiations are still proceeding.
But as far as the teachers are concerned, negotiations had reached an impasse. Although the school board has made more than one wage offer, Giesbrecht says the teachers weren't prepared to talk about money until issues like teachers' rights and conditions had been agreed to. The latest salary package offered by the school board adds up to a 12.4% increase over 2 years, which Giesbrecht calls an insult.
It's below what Kitimat and Rupert have settled for. In some ways, it's kind of an insult because, at the very least, why would we accept less than Kitimat or Rupert, especially if they're not giving us a lot of the contract language that Kitimat and Rupert already have? So, I mean, it's time to stop playing games and starting to accept some reality here. And so far, we haven't been able to get them to do that.
Picketing teachers agree that although money is important, it's not necessarily their top priority at this stage of the game.
Well, I think that we deserve what Prince Rupert and Kitimat have gotten on this contract. I have no question there. I think the big issues here, money is an important issue, as it always is, but I think there are other issues that are as important or more important, and those issues are management rights and employee protection. And I think those issues rank as high as the actual dollar issues.
It's a combination. We have to determine a fair salary. We have to determine fair conditions of employment. So I don't know if there's one particular major issue. The whole package is important.
In the meantime, the teachers maintained they were ready to return to the bargaining table at any time. But since the teachers' strike vote was not supervised by the Industrial Relations Council, the school board refused. Following in the steps of the Kitimat School Board, Terrace trustees went to the IRC to have the strike declared illegal, a situation which had both sides accusing the other of playing silly games.
Why hide behind some, Industrial Relations Council supervised vote? Because it'll be exactly the same. And we've said all along that we consider the initial vote that we held supervised by a member of the clergy far more credible than that supervised by some government appointee Industrial Relations Council member.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. The 60s were a time of change. In September of 1963, the National Union of Public Service Employees and the National Union of Public Employees merged in the founding convention in Winnipeg's Fort Garry Hotel and launching the Canadian Union of Public Employees. Let us return to the archives as CUPE representative Jim Lamb gives us some background on two CUPE locals.
Well, there are two CUPE locals involved here, one representing the custodians and maintenance and the other representing the clerical and teaching assistants. And they have had meetings with most of their membership prior to Christmas and during Christmas through New Year's. So most of them are aware of what's happening.
As in any teacher's strike, there are those who often feel they are the victims of a dispute beyond their control, the students. With provincial exams just around the corner, students worried about how well they would do without the help of their teachers.
I'm pretty upset because I really enjoy coming to school because it also involves with basketball. I like showing up at school and playing basketball, so it really screws up my schedule being that there's a strike right now.
Are you worried about exams?
Yes, I'm worried about exams. Yes.
I'm not too pleased with it because, as Stephen said earlier, nothing's really being done the first week. They're just kind of finding out if it's legal or illegal, so it's not really helping us much. As you can see, it's not too fun studying here all by yourself. So
I guess you could say it's a technicality they're arguing over now, whether the strike is legal. Does that bother you that it's a technicality that's delayed negotiations at least for a week?
Oh, for sure, I think, because, it's just wasted time. It's like a week of, especially this time of year with the exams and everything coming up. And it's just bad timing.
How tough is it going to be on you two for government exams coming up in, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
I don't think I'll do as well as I first expected before the strike.
They're 2-hour exams, and it's the whole year, and it counts 50% of your marks, so it's a big chunk of your grade. So it'll affect our marks for sure.
No one could say how long the strike would drag on with so many contract items still unsigned, but both sides did have one objective in common, putting an end to the dispute. The teachers have said all along they want to negotiate, but remain equally firm in their resolve to continue the strike as long as necessary to get an acceptable agreement.
Well, yeah, it's not the best way to start off the new year, but it's something I think we have to do.
Do you think the teachers feel that as long as it takes out here on the line, is that how you feel?
Yeah, there's certain things we have to get, and I think the school board has to understand we're serious.
It'll be hard on some people, but I think that we're pretty well committed to what we're doing. No time is a good time to be on strike, and nobody likes to strike, but sometimes it's necessary.
Nobody likes to even go on strike with that many items still unresolved. But in some respects, I guess, once the board feels the same kind of pressure that we've been feeling from our members, if they feel that kind of pressure from the community, they may sit down at the bargaining table and be a little bit more realistic.
But as far as the school board is concerned, it's the teachers who have been unrealistic.
I think they're asking for a lot of rights that they don't have right now. They're asking for a lot of management rights that we feel it's the board's prerogative to keep, because we are the managers in the school. We have the responsibility to manage the schools. We believe in a consultative process, and that's the sort of practice that we have used in this district. But to give management rights to employees in contract is I think, irresponsible.
Even after the strike was declared legal, the wrangling over how to get negotiations back on track continued. The school board said the two sides couldn't just pick up where they left off. The board wanted a pruned and realistic contract proposal from the teachers. But the teachers took the opposite view, saying the two sides should pick up where they left off. They weren't prepared to accept preconditions going back into negotiations. And the flames of frustration received additional fuel when more than 200 people turned out to express their views at a heated school board meeting. Chairman Val Napoleon sparred with the large group of students, parents, and teachers about the district's use of a paid negotiator, which many feel is the reason for the strike. The crowd also urged the two sides to resume negotiations.
Madam, I've only asked a simple question. I would like a simple, straight answer. Yes or no?
We don't know yet.
If she is not here, you are prepared to negotiate without her?
We will negotiate.
Without her?
That's right.
Despite the board's commitment to return to the bargaining table later in the week, the negative tone at the meeting reflects the size of the gap between the two sides. A group of drama students from Skeena Junior Secondary School also showed up at the meeting to protest the strike. They're worried it will mean the demise of some extracurricular activities, like a $60,000 multimedia project dealing with teen drug and alcohol abuse.
It's quite a major project that could be ending here.
You think it's in jeopardy?
Very much. I'm hoping that we're not going to lose it, that we're going to be able to make it up, but it's definitely in jeopardy.
Although the students say they aren't taking sides, they are clear in their demand that the dispute be resolved without further delay.
We're not representing anything but the students here today because we're interested in getting back to work in school, and we just want to stop farting around and get to work.
We're the only people being jeopardized here. Everything in our life is being screwed up, and it's because of the strike. Yeah. And it's not fair. We didn't do anything to deserve this.
In the 10th day of the strike, negotiations finally resumed and some progress was made. After bargaining all day and into the evening, 7 more items were agreed to, and Giesbrecht was cautiously optimistic about reaching a settlement. He took a break from the bargaining session to address a group of high school students concerned about provincial grade 12 exams at the end of the month. Giesbrecht said if there is still a strike, the school board can move the exams outside high schools or write the Ministry of Education and have the exams postponed. But the students were upset because the school board chose not to attend the meeting.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. Cholesterol is a waxy substance. It's not inherently bad. Your body needs it to build cells and make vitamins and other hormones, but too much cholesterol can pose a problem. Let us return to the archives to learn about cholesterol-free eggs.
Behold the egg, one of nature's most complete foods, high in protein, tastes good, even comes in its own protective case. People have been eating eggs since, well, probably since they started eating. But there is a problem with eating eggs, health concerns. They're high in cholesterol, right? Bad for the heart. Well, many eggs may have cholesterol in them, but not this one. The egg is from Samson's poultry farm, is home to some 27,000 chickens, which every day lay about 22,000 eggs. And every one of those eggs is apparently pretty much cholesterol-free, simply because of what the chickens are eating.
That's right. Well, the eggs are virtually cholesterol-free on this diet.
Stan Kincaid owns Samson's egg farm, bought it in the early 70s, and ever since, his chickens have been eating a sort of health food, feed that no other commercial egg producer in the province uses. It's made up mostly of fish meal, supplemented with fish oil. The other producers use feed made of meat meal, supplemented with beef tallow, and that, says Kincaid, is why his eggs are different than others.
In any ration where you're using beef tallow or meat meal as part of your feed supplement, then you would be incorporating saturated fats. And those saturated fats would be passed on through the eggs. That is where your cholesterol comes from, is the unsaturated fats.
And so, according to Kincaid, because his birds are eating fish meal, a low cholesterol diet compared to meat meal, they're producing a low cholesterol egg.
Any nutritionist or dietitian will tell you that if you have a cholesterol problem, they'll tell you to eat poultry or fish as your meat source. And fish doesn't have cholesterol in it, and poultry has very little cholesterol in it. And if you don't feed them cholesterol, a product with cholesterol in it, or saturated fats in it, then you shouldn't have cholesterol coming through in the end product.
And that's the theory.
Yes. I mean, if you don't have cholesterol there, how can you, and you're not putting cholesterol in, you can't get cholesterol out.
That may be the theory, but is there any proof? Well, Kincaid is basing his claim about the low cholesterol eggs on what he was told by a nutritionist who works for a feed supply firm in the Fraser Valley. Apparently, in the chicken world, what you eat is what you lay.
Well, they haven't looked at the eggs, but he has looked at our ration, and of course, because they're milling our concentrate for us, they know exactly what's going into our ration. And he tells me that the eggs would be virtually cholesterol-free.
And so that's the theory. Cholesterol-free eggs from chickens simply because of what they eat. But is that possible?
I guess it would be theoretically possible, but I don't know enough about how much cholesterol is in those eggs. No, I don't. But I guess it's theoretically possible, yeah.
Dr. Barry Phillips is a cardiologist. He deals with disorders of the heart. He may not know much about cholesterol in eggs, but he does know about cholesterol in the bloodstream, and it's not something you want too much of.
We're all worried about heart attacks, and heart attacks cause probably 40% of all the deaths in Canada. So the cholesterol is a substance which is in the blood, and you need it to stay alive, but you don't want too much of it, because many studies over the past 30 years in animals and in people have shown that if the cholesterol is increased in the blood, that some of that somehow ends up in the artery where we don't like it to be, and it causes narrowing of the artery so that the blood doesn't flow through the heart. So the heart is starved for blood, and it's a living active muscle. It needs blood to operate, and if it has less blood, then it won't operate as well.
The average egg, especially the yolk, contains a lot of cholesterol. And since cholesterol has been linked with narrowing of the arteries, which can contribute to heart attacks, various medical associations have recommended against eating too many eggs. While Dr. Phillips isn't sure about the claim of a cholesterol-free egg, he says there is a health benefit to eating fish oil that the chickens at Samson's Egg Farm are eating a lot of.
One of the recent considerations is that fish oils may reduce heart attacks in people. For example, the Eskimos have very few heart attacks, and yet they eat a lot of fat and cholesterol-containing foods. So the ingestion of fish oil has been negatively correlated with the development of the hardening of the arteries process. In other words, it seems good to eat fish oils.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
The health benefits of oleic grease have been well documented. Oleic grease consists of about 30% saturated fats and 55% of monounsaturated fats, making it more like olive oil than typical fish oil. It's also low in polyunsaturated fats, which makes it more resistant to spoilage. In this final segment of Open Connection, we discover the benefits of feeding fish oil to chickens.
And so, at the egg farm, the 27,000 chickens are eating a fish oil-rich diet, and apparently passing the health benefits of that diet on through the eggs they lay. But Stan Kincaid isn't feeding his chickens fish meal to produce a lower cholesterol egg. He's using the feed because it's rich in vitamins and trace elements, and better for the birds than meat meal.
The birds are healthier, production's better, mortality is lower, and the overall health of the bird is better. And the oil is extremely high in vitamin A, D, and E. And of course, those elements come through in the product as well. Probably if our eggs were tested, they would find that the vitamin levels are higher than most other eggs, because we feed extremely high levels of A, D, and E.
Kincaid also says the fish meal is moister than the more commonly used meat meal, and so the chickens prefer eating it.
So besides being good for them, it tastes better.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
It almost seems too good to be true. Feed your chickens fish meal instead of beef meal. The birds are healthier because of it, live longer, produce more eggs, and as an added benefit, the eggs are apparently low in cholesterol. And so why aren't other egg producers in the province using the fish meal?
Well, mainly because fish meal is terribly expensive. And all of the feed mills in the province, probably across Canada and down in the States even, are using computer rations. And the computer tells them what's the least cost product to use. And of course, fish meal being extremely expensive just doesn't fall in that category at all. The computer rejects it all the time.
Kincaid gets his fish meal from a cannery in Prince Rupert. Every week he makes a delivery to the coastal city, and on the return trip he brings back the fish product he needs. But maybe there is a hitch to the Samsung eggs. If it's true the feed the chickens eat greatly affects the eggs they lay, why wouldn't the eggs take on the taste characteristics of the feed? Maybe the eggs have a fish flavor.
They would taste fishy if we went to higher levels. We incorporate some soybean meal into our ration just to keep our meat meal or our fish meal levels down.
So you keep it down to the point where you're not going to notice any difference in taste.
Yeah, you probably would find the odd individual that would say that the egg would taste fishy, but they're probably pretty few and far between. I mean, out of the millions of dozens of eggs that we market, I've had very few complaints.
Production at the Samsung Egg Farm is a 7-day-a-week affair. Chickens don't take weekends off. The eggs are sold throughout the Northwest, from Prince Rupert to Houston and north to the Yukon border. Samsung eggs aren't the only ones available in the region. There is competition, but Kincaid won't be using his low-cholesterol eggs as a sales pitch for those concerned about the health implications to try to increase his share of the market.
I don't think I need it as a marketing ploy. I'm already short of production for my market.
You're selling everything you make?
We're selling everything we're producing anyway. And this may only create some more problems for us. I don't know.
As far as Kincaid is concerned, the link between health, cholesterol, and the consumption of eggs is overblown. He says people who want to reduce their intake of cholesterol should be more aware of everything they eat, not just eggs. The medical community agrees.
The presumption is that if you eat foods high in cholesterol, that one can raise your cholesterol. And this is true, but it isn't the only factor, because simply getting fat will raise your cholesterol. Lack of exercise will raise cholesterol. So too many sweets will raise cholesterol. And furthermore, 70% of all the cholesterol in the human body is made from sugar. So the ingested cholesterol in the form of eggs, steaks, red meats, etc., is one factor, but it isn't the only factor.
And so it goes. The medical profession will continue to counsel people to reduce their intake of cholesterol for health reasons. Stan Kincaid will continue eating his eggs, 3 a day, well over the recommended allowance. And the chickens, well, they'll keep laying the eggs, about 22,000 every day.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind to his heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.